Welcome, this is Marty from the Black Father Support Group. This is the first catch-up session for 2016. And what was great was that, we had a new member who came along, so much respect to you, brother. And secondly, because we got to see, well, I got to see personally, firsthand, how the collective experience of us brothers who've been going for a while are now able to help new members who are having issues with seeing or having contact with their children, and just give them a sort of like a steer as the best way to deal with things. So that was really good to see as well. And I wanted to just reiterate some of those things for you. So this is specifically for men who are resident in the UK, in the United Kingdom, because things will be obviously different in Canada, Australia, the Americas, and the Caribbean and so on. So I can only really just speak about what goes on here. So this is for you. What we started to see was that we need to really readjust our thinking about what the court system is there for and what it's there to do, what it's there to provide. It's very easy to imagine that, it's there to be the place where reason and logic resides, and so fairness is available to you as a father. So you may be in a situation with mum where you're not seeing the children and you take that on as unfair or unworkable. And so you now go to the court looking for someone who has a little bit of, heft or a little bit of authority behind them to say what you're doing, woman, is out of order. Give this man some contact to his children, and then that will be better. So first thing I want to do is tell you to stop thinking that way, because this is not what you're going into. This is a system that is run by like a check sheet, So you have to be able to know what things are going to be checking for, what things are not going to be checking for. So you're not there expecting someone with a clear head and a fair mind to be able to look and say, yeah, this is how it should go. Because if that's what you're doing, then you're about to lose access to your children. So first things first, right? When you're going to be dealing with trying to see your children, understand that it's going to take some patience, it's going to take some time. So don't go in there thinking, well, man, I haven't seen my children for a month. I'm taking her to court because I want to see my children, and then expect that the court is going to turn around and say, yeah, see your children. It could be a very long and drawn out process. And when you're allowing your emotions, you really need to take a hold of your emotions. Don't let your emotions manage you through this process. You have to manage your emotions, because it will turn you to drink, it will turn you to drugs, it will turn you to finding ways of having to silence the upset and so on. And what you need to be able to do is really manage your emotions so you don't do anything stupid. Something like, for example, I haven't seen my children in 3 months or whatever. It's getting winter time. I want to send them some clothes, so I'm going to go around to the house and drop off some clothes. That seems like a very sensible, loving thing to do. However, when you're dealing with the courts and so on and so forth, that can be turned into something completely different. When I personally dropped off clothes for my 2 boys, it was portrayed as, this is a reason why I need to have an injunction put against this guy, because he's using this to show me he can get at me at any time. All I did was drop off clothes at the door. They weren't there, and so I left a note saying, love you boys, and left. But that was used as something else. So you have to be very careful and strategic about how you're doing things. Secondly, there's certain steps that you're going to have, hoops that you're going to have to jump through. So the good idea is to get those hoops already lined up, already positioned in a position that you're happy with, so that when you jump through those hoops nice and easily, you're not getting pushed back by the court. So that's another thing. So I'm just going to go through those items very quickly with you so that you have somewhere to look at. And if you're watching this on YouTube, at the bottom I'll put a couple of links so you can find those items that I'm speaking about. All right, so what we need to do is we need to get to court to be able to get a custody hearing and for the judge to say that you should have access to your children. Okay, that is the outcome we want. What the judge is going to want to do is see that mum and dad have already tried to come up with an agreement about what's best, what they think would be best for the children, so they can have some sort of guideline. Also, they're going to, if you're married, they're going to want to see whether you've had a consideration about how assets will be divided or how you're going to move forward regarding financial matters, money going over to mum to look after the children, that sort of thing. So if that hasn't been done when you get to court, they may send you to a mediation centre. So there's a website called nfm.org.uk, National Family Mediation.org.uk. Have a look on their website, because they would explain to you there how you go about arranging mediation. Now, mediation, when you hear it, you kind of think, oh, mediation means that you are there to, understand where mum's coming from and understand where dad's coming from, and then maybe somehow we can get back together or something like that. That is not what they're there for. Mediation is a bit of a funny term. What mediation is there to do is for us to decide when are we going to see the children, who's going to have them when, who has them the most time, how much money needs to change hands, so on and so forth. So it's very much about a cut and dry business relationship, understanding how one person is going to interact with the other person. That's what they're there for. The court is going to say they want to see that. So if you go to the court first, then that is going to push you back into seeing your children, because they're going to tell you to do that first. Okay? Secondly, when you go to court, it's not something where you fill in a form and then they'll say, right, come back next week. Especially if you live in like a large city, you could be waiting 2 to 3 months before you get in front of a judge. So if you're going to be waiting that amount of time, just for them to now push you back to go to the National Families Mediation Centre, you could be looking at 6 months before you actually get back in front of a judge to say, okay, here's what we're going to do. So that's the first thing. Sorry, that's the second thing. The first thing was get your mind right. The second thing was strategically plan your steps. So you want to both arrange a mediation session with the National Mediation Organisation. So that's nfm.org.uk. At the same time, you want to fill out a C100 form. A C100 form is basically a form which says you are requesting time with your children, visitation, they call it. And I hate that term, visitation, because visitation kind of says, well, I'm visiting my kids. No, you're just trying to be a parent. You want to parent your child, but that's me and my issues. So this is about you filling out that C100 form. It's going to cost you about, I think it's like 275 quid. So it's pricey to be able to just request that you actually see your children, but do that. And at the same time you're doing that, also speak with the National Mediation people to be able to get that going as well. You want to speak to mum about you going there first. You don't want to tell mum you're going to court. Do not do that. That will raise up suspicion and start getting her ducks in a row. You need to get your ducks in a row first. So you're going to first go to there. You're only just telling her about the mediation. You don't even have to tell her why. You just say, look, but we're obviously screwing up. And what we need to do is get some mediation so we can figure out how we're going to move forward. That's all you need to let mum know at this moment in time. So that when she goes there, she may be going there with the thinking that we're going to try and sort things out in the relationship. She'll be told there and then, hey, this is why we're here. We're going to try and figure out how we can split up these assets, how we're going to divide time with you and the children. So she goes in there unprepared, whilst you are prepared and you know what to do. So then that way it works in your favour and you're not on the back foot going into this situation. All right? When you are, I just forgot to tell you, when you're there at the mediation, they're going to give you something called a Memorandum of Understanding. All right? So the Memorandum of Understanding is saying that you two are standing under this agreement going into the court. So understanding literally just means that you are standing under the agreement that you've made. So when you go to the court, mum cannot now say, actually, Your Honour, I think that dad shouldn't see the children at all because he hurt my feelings once, or because he brought clothes round to the house once. You don't want to be in that situation. Trust me. What you want to, the reason why you're going to that contact center is to get that memorandum of understanding. All right, you get that, then you go to the court. You've already arranged the court, so by the time you had that sit down with the mediation center, the court has already been finding the time, and they can see you, and then you'll find, hey, guess what? 2 weeks time, we've got to go to court, so this can all be put down by the judge. So that puts you in a nice, strong position. A lot of brothers have a real issue with these contact centres. The National Association of Child Contact Centres, NACCC, yeah. The NACCC is a horrible place. It's a thing that a lot of people will do, a lot of mums will be told to do by lawyers and so on and solicitors, to say that they should push for you seeing your children at a child contact centre because it is such a cold and alien environment for both you and your children, and you have a person there who's watching you behind a screen or in the same room taking notes while you're playing with Lego that's been played with by 1,000 other families. It looks nasty, and you're there trying to pretend like, hey man, isn't this great? And you and your children are not totally comfortable. That is something that they're going to put forward for you to do. Reason being is because the hope is that you're going to say this isn't good enough and I'm not happy with it. It's true, it's not good enough. And it's true that you're obviously not going to be happy with it. But if you go to court and the judge sees that you had the opportunity to see your children at this rundown, nasty contact centre with someone watching you over your shoulder and you turn that down, then they will take that as you're not that interested in seeing your children. So you need to bear that in mind. This is another reason why you need to be able to turn off your emotions, turn those emotions down, manage those, so that you can start dealing with this more important problem of having access to your children. Last thing I would say is that if you do intend to have any interaction with mum or the children, and I mean any interaction with mum or the children, you have someone with you, preferably female, so a sister or an aunt, because what they will do once they've gone to the lawyer is the lawyer will say, has dad ever attacked you? And she'll say, well, no, he hasn't attacked me. Are you sure? Because abuse could be that he said something horrible to you, or abuse could be that he grabbed your arm hard or something. So she'll go, well, yeah, you know what, there was that time when we had an argument and he was shouting at me, yeah, and it hurt my feelings. And then they'll say, great, well, look, that is proof that, you are in an abusive relationship. We can put an injunction against dad, and that will stop him from having access to your children. And because we're dealing with an upset mum, she's more likely to agree with that than to say, well, actually, I don't want to stop dad from seeing those children. This isn't a indictment of mothers. Not all mothers do that. And even those who do that, as I'm saying, they're being advised that's the best way forward. They've been advised it by the solicitor, by the lawyer. And what's in it for the lawyer is that the lawyer gets to have a nice, long, protracted case that they get to make more money off of. So what's in it for the lawyer is to make your life as difficult as possible. They're not really interested in you of your children having a good relationship with their dad. They're interested in their pocket. Mum is interested in getting a level of power back in the situation. So she may go along with it, may be swayed by their ideas. And what you need to do is that if you are going to do something like drop clothes off at the house, make sure that someone is there with you when you do it. Because if you don't have that witness there, then that can be used against you to say you was there to intimidate and whatever. I've seen it before. I've heard it before at the fathers group. I remember a couple of years ago, a brother come along. He said that he was just trying to, see his children, and before he knew it, he was in handcuffs with his head on the hood of a police car. So we really need to be very careful about how we're doing it. So it's about being strategic, gentlemen. It's about being careful, and it's about thinking 2 steps ahead. So you are now on the front foot, and mum is now on the back foot. All of that just so you can see your children. So I hope this makes some sense to you. The links are in the bottom of the video. This is Marley from the Black Father Support Group, signing off.